CosmicRadio.TV. This podcast would be nothing without our patrons, so special thanks goes out to them. If you want to join their ranks and support independent content, head to our Patreon at patreon.com/8bitlife. Welcome to the fine edition of my so-called 8-Bit Life. I'm your host, Roberto Vegas. Joining me today outside of an Ethiopian restaurant that we just got done eating at, Raheem Jarbo, better known as Mega R.A.N.
Hey.
How's it going, sir?
Oh, man, it's going well. The food was amazing.
Yeah, this is your idea, because we were originally going to go. You had thought that there was a barbecue place up here.
Mm-hmm.
There are barbecue places up in.
There are, but not the one I was thinking about.
Right, you thought there was a. I would have almost said when you mentioned that because it was Franklin's, I was like, oh, they made another location?
I think there is one somewhere around, but I just had it wrong.
Nah.
But Ethiopian is one of my favorite types of food to eat. It's just so diverse, and
yeah,
I think it works for every palate. You know, there's always something for every taste. And and it's family style. So
it worked out really well. And we had Samus here, and Creative Mind Frame came along, and it became kind of a fun sort of group discussion,
family outing, and fun stuff.
It was a really, really fun time for things like that. I definitely had that there. Yeah, the place we ate was specifically, if you were curious, was Taste of Ethiopia here in Austin. Actually, it's here in Pflugerville. Great place, definitely well worth.
Two locations as well, but
this is like we're making an advertisement.
This episode is brought to you by now.
Praise the
it's good food, though. It really is.
But the reason we're here is obviously it's. As of right now, it is Sunday, not technically the last day of South by Music, but technically the end of it all. And you're still you're still on tour as we speak right now. Like you have.
I am. This is like the first day off I've had in a long time. So I was determined not to go into Austin and partake in any of the final day.
No,
stuff.
it's fine.
I think the last thing is there's usually like a softball game.
Yeah, there's like a closing party and
some
stuff
closing
like that,
parties, but not for me. This was a day to rest my feet and my body. It was a rough week, just as far as getting to do everything I wanted to do, and I wouldn't change anything. This is like my 8th or 9th year at South by.
No, you've been hitting it hard, and
as every year I wonder like why am I coming back? What am I doing? Why do I do this to myself?
But I think it's
and then I remember when I get there, I'm like, man, it's for family, it's for friends, it's for music.
That's sort of the thing for me. Like I had everyone that comes South by, there's always the overarching kind of consensus by certain people, like, oh, South by's terrible. Why are you still doing it? It's terrible, small artists and whatnot. And I go in my head, I go, are you going to the right shows? And I go, oh, if you're going to try to get the bigger ones, then yes, it's commercialized and that's totally fine. That doesn't mean it's good or bad. That's just nature of the game. But for me, it's, I have friends who come in at the beginning of the week from like Germany and other parts of the country. I have friends that come in in music, that, either artists I know or just friends who are like, I want to see this person perform. I then have the other events I go to, like Japan Night every year, that I see other friends and family there. And then I have now the gaming family. Like I had a few developer friends, like my friend Philip, who you did, I think, one of the tracks up on the clause up for Battle Sloss. This game's getting published by Rooster Teeth, and that's insane. And so it becomes like now the reason I go to South by has less to do. I mean, the shows are great and it's awesome, but it has less to do with that and more of, oh, cool, my friends are in town. Let's go do something.
Yep. Absolutely.
So before South by, though, before all this kind of kicked off, I mean, your tour right now is with MC Lars,
yes,
and some other people have kind of come along the way, like Sky Blue came with you.
Yes. When
you're in Florida, I think you performed with IQ as well.
Yeah, we've been touring with Sky Blue and Big O, a band from Idaho.
Oh, okay.
And so they've been awesome to tour with. We kind of split up this week so they could do their thing, play some shows, but we'll be joining back together in,
that's good. Okay.
In El Paso and doing the rest of this tour. So that's been a lot of fun, just bringing a new diverse group and bringing them to our friends and family and fans.
Yeah.
And, it was Sky Blue's first South by, so that was exciting.
I told him this like throughout the whole show. I'm so glad that he came because I know how critical it is South by for networking and just sometimes getting feedback from people that aren't necessarily like, because your friends, like people like me giving feedback. It's like, oh, thank you. Like, I'm glad that you like it and that. But getting that random person feedback, especially when you go to a venue and you're like, I don't know how it's going to land. And you have everyone sort of like, yeah, in that sort of crowd. Like, I think it was last night during the showcase that Mario, you invited Mario up on Sky Blue up on stage. And like, he killed it.
And he absolutely killed it. And I was talking to him about it last night, and even this morning, he was still high off of it. It was a great performance. I'm sure there's video around for people to check.
Yeah,
but
sure.
He played 2 songs and was able to capture that audience in those 2 songs, in a way that I haven't seen people do in a whole 30 minutes.
That's what's so cool about it.
I loved it, and he was excited. He really made a South by moment, I think. And it would be great to see him on the showcase next year, hopefully. And it's just a matter of just baby steps and getting to where we all want to be eventually. And I think although South by is not a necessary step, I think it is something that is important and very useful.
Well, it's something that I was telling this I tell this to everybody. I tell it definitely to Sky Blue. It still is a thing that's recognized. It's something you can put on the resume, for lack of better words. The idea of saying like, yes, I was an artist. I performed at a South by set.
Not just that, but an official showcase.
Exactly.
Being able, like, there's a huge difference between, as we were talking about, playing an official showcase or playing a showcase.
Prior to the Nerdcore Showcase,
$500.
That's what it was. There was prior to the showcase, there was an event where I guess a label had hosted it. I really don't know all the details, but they charged $500 to anyone performing for 2 songs.
2 songs.
The same amount that Sky Blue did on your set.
Yeah. Man, I should
how much
charge
did you
more.
pay? Yeah, how much did he pay you?
Nothing. I believe
you
in
got
what he
ripped off,
does. I got ripped off. I need to stop being so nice.
I kid.
But no. I think that just shows you. Yeah, like, so there's a difference of playing, those 2 songs to an audience that might not be receptive, or it's just all there for the same reason, to get on stage.
Right.
Rather than a group of folks like the Nerdcore show, where it's people, friends, family, and fans. And I think that's why our showcase is so special. Most of the showcases don't include fans.
Yeah.
They're just industry folks.
And I think that's why I like why it is, like, for me, the 2 events I go to, or I try to go to each year, is Japan Night and Nerdcore, because they have those same parallels. Because I'll go to Japan Night and I'll see my friends there. I'll see the people I know. I know Audrey. I have gotten her to sign my poster. In fact, I think she jokingly said I'm the only person that has her autograph on any poster, because she's just the person that throws it. But I know she does because I've been going for 4 or 5 years now. And she knows exactly who I am, and she knows exactly who goes to these shows. And all these shows have the same thing in common, that they're family. That it's like I take the lingo from you, the fam. Like I say that this is my Japan Night fam, this is my Nerdcore fam, this is my interactive fam, this is my gaming fam, because it becomes less. I mean, the music's important, the music's great, and that's neither here nor there. But it's the fact that I'm here with people that are not just like-minded, but are interested in learning something new and hearing something new.
Absolutely. It's a beautiful thing.
But before this, also, you had worked on a project that, when you announced it, I had no idea what it was going to be. Basically, you had said, hey, I'm working on a Notorious B.I.G. tribute project. And the first thought that went through my brain, because you're asking for titles, and somebody came with Notorious R.A.N., I was like, yeah, that's what I would have come up with, too, because that's the only title that makes sense. Is Mega Ran going to curse for the first time on an album?
I'm surprised that people immediately went to that.
Because you never curse. Like, it's been like part of your moniker.
If it's something I've never done, then yeah, why would you think I would do it now?
I don't know. Maybe you're going to explore.
Will be the time.
This is like,
and I mean, honestly,
if anything could get away with it, is just like, like, how is he going to do Big Papa?
I do feel like, yes, it would be understandable if I did.
Right.
But at the same time, I wanted to make a record that I always say that Biggie would also be proud of, but also Biggie's mom would be proud of, and friends and other folks who are, fans of good music. And I feel like it's an unspoken rule and unspoken mission statement of mine to be able to make music that can compete on a structural and a sonic level with anything else out there, without profanity and the themes that are here.
Right. That's been your sort of MO from day one.
That's always been my thing. And so I would even take a Biggie thing and a Biggie project and take that same mantra with that and say, I want to make Biggie's music, a little bit more palatable to someone who might have been turned off when they heard the first F-bomb, So
yeah, well, not even so much that, and this is not to slant. What's his real? I forget Biggie's real name.
Christopher
Wallace. Not to sully his good name, but at the time, there was a certain kind of like he was part of the gangster rap movement, for lack of better words, and that has a certain kind of tone and certain kind of thematics that weird geeky people like me. Now as I've gotten older, I understand and I get what they're drawing from and why they were doing what they did. And now I understand, but at the time I was like, that is not my life. I'm in the suburbs of Grand Blanc. I don't have to deal with the mean streets of any of these things. I don't. And then I always think of the Tupac. What was it? The slam track they made? I forgot what the name of it. That's why I fucked you.
Hit 'em up.
Hit 'em up. And
very negative song.
Right, exactly. And
so there was a lot of negativity, a lot of venom thrown around, a lot of gangster imagery, and I don't do any of that. So I guess in that sense it was a challenge, but not really for me because I've always been doing it. I've been writing raps for 20 years without those things.
No, I know.
So it to me was fun to be able to change some of the lyrics around and change some of the flow around. And some of the words, and I think that was really what I had most fun with creating the album is playing with words. I think that as an artist who doesn't use profanity, it's definitely a challenge to come up with new words.
Well, I mean, especially when it comes to hip hop, and not to say that other music does not have profanity. Punk has a ton of it. But hip hop, it's kind of
rooted in it.
Right.
A lot of it is, and when people rap fast, I mean, the fastest thing you can put together is motherfucker. You know what I mean? Because it just flows so quickly.
Yeah, that's fine.
But if you're trying some other way or some other style, it's a fun challenge for me. And that's really what it is a brain exercise every time I write a rap.
So here's a question, because I know R&DM when it came out got a little bit of exposure beyond the nerdcore. In that. And on some of this tracks, it's more traditional hip hop and kind of flows between it. This is not to say that I've said many times nerdcore basically is hip hop, but there's some who call it that geeky thing that I'm kind of scared of. When you released the Biggie project, has there been some pickup beyond the nerdcore scene?
I would say so. I mean, I think that
just it being a Biggie tribute project
for it being Biggie, that in itself, got outlets like Double XL have picked it up, which is a site that has been long considered an authority on hip hop stuff. So. I think with the timing of it, with it being 20 years since its passing, it was a story that maybe would transcend the traditional nerdcore reach. And I didn't do it for that reason, but I would hope that I could educate at the same time. So a lot of my fans they didn't relate to Biggie stuff.
Yeah.
Or they may have been younger and haven't
heard it, or just it wasn't part of their musical repertoire.
Yeah, so now I'm like, maybe I can open you up to it. You hear mine, and then you go back and hear his, and like, oh wow, that was cool.
Well, because I remember the other project that came out it was funny because you would release one, but prior this year, Too Mellow released a Earthbound and Biggie mashup.
Earth
Big, and that was kind of fun because it was cool because they did a Big Papa, they did a cover, but basically the beat is done with Earthbound instruments.
Yeah,
and it's a fun,
great idea.
Yeah,
I think he got a lot of success with the Chrono Jigga with the Jay-Z one of the year before, and it was only, I guess, a logical progression to go into Biggie and other stuff like that. And but I wanted, and that's funny. I didn't when I made the announcement and I said, "Hey guys, I'm doing this." I didn't give any details. I did it on purpose. I didn't tell people,
that's why.
Oh, it's going to be 8-bit covers. Oh, it's going to be a mashup.
That's why I didn't know.
Instantly, people assume that. So they're like, oh, well, call it, the Notorious 8-bit or something like that. Or
that's why I held, as I said, the Notorious R.A.N. Because when I heard, when you went to Facebook guys for titles and someone said Notorious R.A.N., I'm like, that's what I would give.
Yeah.
Not knowing what you were going to do, not because, my brain went to, oh, he's going to do covers. Oh, he's going to curse the first time? Intriguing.
Right.
Not only because I have experienced, your music in terms of when you did an 8-bit version of your, your album The Call, to you doing more traditional hip hop, to nerdcore, to using, video games as backbeats, to not using video games. I've seen the gamut. So for me, it was less of what he's going to do. It was, oh, is he going to just do covers and do it his own thing?
And I thought about covers
Yeah.
too. And but I was like, you know what? It's more fun for me to go back in. And what I did was we recreated the sound.
Yeah.
Went back, resampled the tunes, replayed a bunch of stuff. Great. I had two great producers help me. My two favorite people, Fresh Kills from Toronto and DJ DN3, who I've come up with and known for over 20 years. And this is the first time we had gotten back together and worked on stuff.
Yeah.
Wow. Probably
that also excited me too. Just
since
like
like Language Arts, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
So it was awesome to come back to him with this project. And I knew if I was going to work with him again, it had to be something that he would enjoy and relate to. So I think he's awesome at manipulating samples. So we sat together. We took some of the great classic Biggie tracks, chopped them up, went back to the original samples, found those, chopped those up, and remade those beats from scratch. And that was a fun experience. And then at the same time, I deconstructed the lyrics and reconstructed those. So it was really like a piece-by-piece process. And it's something that I don't take lightly, especially paying tribute to a person who has passed away and has meant so much to me lyrically.
Well, yeah, I mean, he's one of, like, you know, we talk about godfathers of rap, and we'll talk about what you did at South by. That, speaking of godfathers of rap, like he's one of he was one of the ones you remember, like in terms of like pioneering.
But as far as impact and flipping,
you
know, changing the culture in rap, and it was a really big moment and a big scene at a big time where, you know, lyrics, you know, and I think technical ability met street culture, which met, you know, pop samples and things.
Well, because
so
like that was
time.
the era, and it's such a funny thing. And I only think about this because my brother's in, you know, as a sommelier, and we make this comment, but like that was the era. Like I remember the concept of Cristal. You know, even
like
pop
people,
culture.
I guess, like luxury rap, you know, became a thing where it was like, okay, here's a guy who went from being a street corner hustler to a guy who had made enough money to go and get a really nice house and
like the Benz and
sip Cristal and things like that.
And it's funny, I never knew what a benzo was until like I was hearing the lyrics, didn't know. Oh, he's talking about Mercedes Benz. Like that's how much my brain was when it came to that. I never thought of it because it never was part of my like purview of life. Like, what's a benzo? Oh, Mercedes Benz. Okay, and then Cristal and all these kind of things like that. But all that became part of the culture to the point that, you know, the progression would be you start seeing other artists sort of take that to the extreme.
Oh, yeah.
Things like, you know, what is it? No Limit Studios with like
people. Yeah, then people would go way far with it, and then it became, I guess, kind of a bit overused and commercialized, where guys were then, you know, marketing specifically for, you know, liquor companies or fashion companies and things like that. You know?
That was also the time when, like, and now, I mean, we're at a point, speaking of like Biggie, like Puff Daddy, like he has his own like suit line and like that. And like,
so that was the entrepreneurialism stage, which happened. So the late 90s were big for that. A lot of artists got into entrepreneurialism. Last night I saw an artist play who was sponsored by Tanqueray, you know, a drink. So So I was like, wow, you know, that Biggie, you know, if that had not happened, you know, if Biggie wouldn't have happened, stuff like that wouldn't have happened.
Yeah, we wouldn't be in this idea where it's not just simply an art form that's appealing. It's like, I think the Hip Hop the Evolution like documentary, hip hop and rap is pop in terms of that it's popular.
Oh, it's popular.
It is like one of the lead formats, and because
absolutely.
And it's like South by, I make the joke of it, but everybody has a mixtape. It is the, you know, there are all kinds of music events South by, but a majority of them are hip hop.
Majority is hip hop, you know, and I think that's amazing. And Biggie has a line like, "You never thought that hip hop could take it this far."
Yeah, and it's gone even further.
And to think, like, man, even since then, you know, hip hop has completely overtaken South by.
Yeah.
You know, all the big events have a hip-hop act on them. And, you know, there's lines around the block. So it's an awesome time, and I think Biggie would have continued to elevate and innovate in that space. So I just really wanted to pay some tribute to him because I feel like people are beginning to kind of forget. You know, people still talk about Tupac, but people don't necessarily talk about Biggie as much. And I feel like maybe because he didn't make as much, like, culturally impactful music, you know, but I feel like if you break down the technicality in his words and lines and the wit there, I think there's always been a place for that.
Yeah.
And he was one of the first guys to really step outside of what he was doing in order to make innovative stuff. He had a song with Bone Thugs and Harmony where he rapped double time, and no one in New York was doing that. You know, he had a song on the new album, on the last album, where he was singing, and no rapper was doing that. You know, so it turned into a really... He was innovating, and I feel like he would have continued to do that.
Well, the thing that amazed me between Tupac and even Biggie was that after their passing, after the whole thing went down the way it did, or however it did, because really no one truly knows. There's theories, there's ideas, there's all, we talk about, you have 9/11 truthers, there's Biggie and Tupac truthers out there that probably have a billion different theories.
Oh, absolutely.
But I remember when they passed that there was a lot of CD projects that came out of like stuff they had recorded that just never got published. Like I remember they did I forget how far back, but it was I think the hook was Trying to Live When I'm Just Living to Die, and it was a Tupac and Biggie song because they had like audio tracks of them, and it was just
and they were friends, which is crazy. Before everything fell out, they were two friends who, both were trying to make it in the industry, and maybe one borrowed from the other, and maybe one gave advice to the other, and maybe
for sure,
and of course as friends do. But I think when money and fame came in the middle,
that
it
was
just really kind of pushed them apart.
Part of that era of music, because that was when like the 80s were sort of the beginning of hip hop becoming a thing. The 90s was the thing, and it continued. And because it was a thing, people start seeing, dollar signs, not just artists, but marketers,
executives,
stuff like that, and you start to see this whole trend of having the there's always a diss track in terms of,
I think
that. Even in terms of like the rap battles.
The competitive nature of hip hop from the beginning was built on battles. So, and being better than the next guy. So, as music gets more popular, it's like, there can only be one king.
Yep.
And there has to be one king, and everyone else has to bow down. And people are like, oh no, I'm not bowing down. So, I think that mentality is what continues to kind of divide folks. And then there's the diss tracks and the things that people take offense to, and Biggie tried to take the high road, musically. He didn't do any scathing diss tracks about Tupac, which is probably, what I would do. He had very clever, thinly veiled, subliminal messages, in his music, where you'd be like, is he talking about Tupac? And you didn't really know for sure.
Yeah, do some research.
But Tupac would come straight out and be like, well, F you and F that boy and F,
like I remember the track where like the opening thing was like, that's why I fucked your bitch, you fat motherfucker.
Yeah, right. It's like, it's very, very...
It's very loaded. Like, it's very targeted to who it is. Yeah. There's no subtlety there.
But, but Biggie took, I guess, a higher road on that. He would make jokes about it. He has a joke. He said, if my girl had twins, she'd probably have Tupacs. So it's hilarious. So it's like he's making a joke of it, like, well, maybe she did sleep with him, and it was funny, and people were like, whoa, how can you laugh about that? But I'm like,
you have to.
Have to, like, or you just become
part of that, and that's what
what
sucks about that whole thing was that. So this is a loaded question before we start talking about other things that happen South by. Maybe this might even end the conversation because we're almost at our 30-minute mark because I've limited time. What do you think Biggie would think of Nerdcore now? Only because I'm only curious because that's been your not to say that you're not. I mean, you've gone into doing other things. You still continue to do things. It's not hip hop Nerdcore are always the same thing.
Yeah, I feel like I still do other things, and I enjoy Nerdcore, and I also enjoy making traditional music
for sure.
But
my question is, what do you think he would? Only because it's if you compare kind of the beginnings of hip hop to Nerdcore, in that the idea that when hip hop began in its infancy, it was the idea of people just kind of doing their thing and sort of whatever they related to, and then you had like the songs like The Message where you could actually do something with it. And when it comes to looking at Nerdcore, it's very closer to old school hip. It's closer to old school hip hop than the current rap is. As I say, rap right now isn't good or bad. If you like it, rock and roll. Do not let me stop you. But in terms of stylistically, it follows that. So I'm curious what you would think, especially when it comes to this being, a lot of people who, everybody kind of is in Nerdcore in terms of like. Not say that there isn't anybody in rap, but I guess what I'm trying to ultimately say is, do you think Biggie would be welcoming of it?
I don't know. Honestly,
I realize it's a loaded question. And
very loaded. I'm going to be honest. He probably would think, oh, this is corny, before listening to it.
Right.
Like, oh, rappers rap about nerd stuff. Nah.
Right.
But at the same time that Biggie existed, there were Tribe Called Quest. There was, there were Wu-Tangs. There were people mentioning Kung Fu Flicks.
Yes, of course.
And there was Nas, and there was De La Soul, and a lot of different things were happening, and there was no friction.
Yeah,
that's a lot of those guys didn't make fun of each other and things like that. Tribe Called Quest was what people considered to be dressing funny and very alternative, and people were okay with it because they knew they were skilled. So I think that he would be a fan of skilled Music.
And that's sort of what I'm curious, especially when it comes to you, only because in my opinion, you're a very skilled lyricist, and you have been over the years. And
but I got a funny thing though. My friend, a good friend of mine, he mentioned one day, because he's a rapper and he's really good at rapping, and he's like, man, the only reason I rap is because of guys like Wu-Tang. And I was like, oh, cool. And he's like, so I want to make music that Wu-Tang would be proud of.
Oh,
you know, that where they heard it, they would be like, whoa. And I'm like, really? I don't know if you should ever base your career path on whether or not your heroes would approve of it, because they might just be into something different.
Yeah, that's fair.
And and I was like, well, if Method Man heard you rap and said, oh, that's whack, would you just quit? He's like, yeah, I probably would. I would just quit. And I was like, what? Why? Like you're doing what you do and people enjoy it, and and he's like, man, but I make music to make those guys happy, to make those guys proud. To that
is I never thought of it being
movement of rap
proud.
Is coming and continuing on, and I was like, whoa, I gotta say, and this might be a loaded answer, I don't care.
No, that's fair.
What Biggie would think. I mean, honestly, I feel like I would hope he would enjoy it.
You'd hope he'd like it. That's sort of, and that's
But if he had told me, I think what you're doing sucks, I'd be like, well, okay.
Yeah.
And to each his own, because music is so subjective at the end of the day. And so because it's so subjective, there's no right or wrong answer.
Yeah.
So I feel like that wouldn't stop me from doing what I do, because granted, I want to make the forefathers proud. And I think that's what we had a song called Standing on the Shoulders of Giants.
Yeah.
And we kind of talk about that. And of course, I want to make the forefathers proud. And I'm not just sampling games because they're catchy.
Right, you're doing it because
I appreciate what
they're part
Koji
of your
Kondo
life.
did.
They were a big portion of you.
Yeah.
That's what Nerdcore is all about.
And I don't want those things to be forgotten. And that's really and that's why I do this Biggie thing as well.
No, and I think it's that's sort of the reason why. And I agree with you. Like, don't do it because don't do like in the anime culture. It's like, notice me, senpai. Like, don't do it to get senpai to notice you.
I don't need senpai to notice me on this. I feel like. As long as
be happy when senpai praises you, and when the sensei comes and says you've done well, my apprentice. Like, be happy when that happens, but don't do it to please, and
that's
honestly,
where seppuku comes from.
Yeah,
you wind up
it's just like
slicing yourself open because you're disappointed.
I've dishonored you, senpai.
Right. So I can't. No. So at the end of the day, like, I would love for that to happen, but I won't hold out for that, and that's not the reason I create. It's to make myself happy, and it's therapeutic for me. So if it makes me happy, then I'm going to do it.
So I'm going to ask you one last thing, because we have about 3 minutes left, and it's happened recently. This other South by. Speaking of legends, you had, I guess, the honor of opening for a legend of hip hop.
Well, that was insane.
Okay, to talk about that really quick, just because I think it's interesting. I'm curious how it all happened. That's why
the Twitch Reddit party was a big South by event. It was a 4-day event.
Yep.
And on the 4th day, a gentleman asked MC Lars and I to play. And he's an old friend of Lars from back in the day. We did a song called Reaping Beauty a long time ago. And he helped to produce that. And it was a Bayonetta song. And he's always been great with marketing and social media.
Yep.
And he's been a big fan of Nerdcore. So he's like, well, this is an opportunity to bring my worlds together. So he said it was a complete, like, selfish move. He's like, man, I love you guys, so let's put you guys in the middle of Snoop Dogg and Grandmaster Flash.
I know we're going to take a little bit of time. Did you ever think, and being the person you are, doing your stuff, getting there, obviously, you do your own thing. You're not doing it to praise. We've already said that before. But did you ever think you'd be on the same bill as Snoop Dogg and Grandmaster Flash ever in the history of this?
Never. But you know what's weird, though? Weird story. MC Lars actually opened for Snoop Dogg before, a long time ago.
Right.
So he's like, I wonder if he'll remember me. And he's like, well, nah, he probably won't.
Probably won't, of course.
So he didn't mention him. He didn't mention to him. But I just thought it was insane. And the first I kept thinking, like, this isn't going to go well. Like, those fans don't want to hear us. And then I was like, you know what? But there's a lot of people who work for Twitch, a lot of people who work for Reddit,
exactly,
who are geeks just like us.
Yeah,
and I think they'll enjoy it. And that's always my concern with South by parties outside of the Nerdcore Showcase.
It is if that you're going to connect with
it
this
just
audience.
could be industry folks who are looking for the next hot thing and are not necessarily fans of music. So, yeah, that's always my biggest concern. But this show, man, we had a great crowd. What happened was weird. Snoop walked out of his dressing room onto the show floor.
Cloud of smoke just billowing out.
Billowing out of there.
Just
walks out onto the floor.
You can just smell it on him.
Right. While we're rapping, Snoop walks out of the side door. And the crowd instantly turns their head, and it's just like, some gasps, like, that's Snoop. And Snoop's walking to his area to get ready for the show, and he's kind of dancing along the whole way.
God, no fucking way.
And he's dancing to our tune that me and Lars did. And I was like, that was awesome. And we were like, yo, big up to Snoop. And we shout him out, and he turns around and gives us a little, like,
oh my God,
a little wave and salute. And that was awesome. And then I got a quick moment to meet Grandmaster Flash. And just wanted to thank him. I mean, I got into his trailer, and I didn't want anything else. I just wanted to be like, man, just thank you for everything.
I mean, that's why when it got announced, I was like, I am so happy for R.A.N. because that I know in terms of the history of the genre,
that means a lot. Like I'm a history buff, and with hip hop especially, and being able to be in the same room at the same time with those guys.
just having the idea and like saying to be able to say coming up next, we got Snoop Dogg, or coming up next we got Grandmaster Flash. Like when in the history of like the little Raheem, listening to cassette tapes, and
I remember my Snoop Dogg tape. I had to I dubbed it from someone else because I couldn't afford it. So I recorded it, and I remember it was on a blue like Maxell tape.
Yes.
And I remember flipping it over to here, and I couldn't remember which side was side A and side B. So because I just recorded it so fast.
Right, of course.
I think I high-speed dubbed it.
Yep,
Remember that?
Yep,
high-speed
dubbing? Of course I do.
I was like, and I did the high-speed dub.
I got it.
So I could come home and listen, and I didn't know which side was A and which was B. So I probably have been listening to that album backwards my whole life. And I just love this so much. And like to think like, man, 20 some odd years later, we'll be in the same room on the same bill with our names on the same flyer.
God, I mean,
in the same.
That's why I was so freaking excited because like I know who that is. Like this past South by, I got to meet one of my gaming legends, R.A.N. Miller, the guy that made Myst, and that was a huge honor for me because that got me pretty much in the video games I am today. And knowing that you were on that bill, I was like, that's not just awesome for my friend because I'm glad he's going to a bigger crowd. But that's awesome as like an artist of like,
absolutely,
see people that potentially got you in this whole thing. And, like inspired you to get
legendary. Here. And so always be grateful for that. So thank you to Lars and to Chase for hooking that up, man. That was insane. And man, it was. But that's the crazy about South by, like some things are just insane. And people talk about what you can and can't gain out of South by. You can gain unpredictable moments like that.
Yes.
So that's like the good side to it.
I think you can gain a lot, but we are out of time because we're at the 30-minute mark and you got to get moving. But R.A.N., always a damn pleasure to have you on the show.
Man, it's always a pleasure to be here.
So if people want to actually get a copy of this and weren't special, awesome people like me who are patrons and got a copy for free, how can they get a copy of Notorious R.A.N.'s work?
Well, it is on my Bandcamp, which is megaranmusic.com. It's actually on Spotify and Apple Music right now, so you can stream it to your heart's content. Just type that in, Notorious R.A.N. Ready to Live is the subtitle. And there's actually 2 bonus tracks on Bandcamp that you won't get anywhere else. So go get that. Also listen to and support Fresh Kill's work. Yep. He's got some amazing stuff. Awesome producer and DJ. DJ DN3 as well. Fresh Kills has a new project out with Prem Rock, which is awesome. And we're going to be on the road, so come see us at a show, megaran.com/shows.
Yeah, for sure. Of course, you can find me. I'm at Vincent404 there on the Twitter. If you want to catch previous podcasts, go to our website, CosmicRadio.TV/8BitLife. There you'll find links to show notes, our Twitter account for the show, which is at 8BitLife Podcast. And, of course, if you want to watch this live when it does record over the internet, you go to twitch.tv/CosmicRadio.TV, all one word. And after you've bought all R.A.N.'s albums, head over to patreon.com/8BitLife and help this podcast become bigger, better, and more awesomer. All right, that's it for the day. Till next time, talk about something completely and utterly random. Bye, people.